So tonight, I'm honored to have two great guests with us tonight. Of course, Adam Sass was with us a few weeks ago, sitting with Julian Winters, and he is the author of Surrender Your Sons, and also is going to be one of our speakers at the conference this year. And with him, we have Eric Smith, who is a literary agent with PS Literary, but is also an author in his own right. And his book was Don't Read the Comments. And we'll have links to both of those that lead you to the bookshop on our website. And if you do want to support these writers and do want to buy the books, if you purchase them through our website, through our bookshop, a portion of those sales go back to Broadleaf writers, as well as help support independent bookstores. So I'm about done rattling. So guys, why don't you come up and we'll get things rolling. Hello. Adam, there you go.
Hello.
Right. Wonderful to have you both here. I look forward to this conversation because not only are many of the questions that we get posed toward agents specifically, but there are a lot of questions we get that are about the agent and author dynamic. And as it happens, Eric is Adam's agent. And so we not only get just to have a general conversation, but we have to get to have a very specific one about the relationship that you two have and things that may or may not have happened between the two of you. And, you know, we'll see what we can cover and go from there. So welcome.
It sounds so dramatic.
Well,
it's like, this is our masterclass, yes. Can't wait.
All right, so we're gonna launch right into this. Eric, one of the biggest questions I get is, what in the world does an agent do? Now, I don't mean that on a daily basis, sitting at home or in your office or, you know, dealing with kids or whatever it happens to be. I just mean like from the point of submission for an author to the point of publication, even then after. What exactly do you do, sir?
Yeah, well, I do feel like the assumption with agents is that, you know, it's an agent's job to sell your book, and that's it. But that's not really the case, you know. For the most part, an agent's job is, you know, after we've signed a client, we work with that author to help polish their book up and get it in the best shape possible. We're a little bit of an editor in that space, although most agents edit to sell, and I could talk a little bit more about that later, as opposed to developmentally edit. Not all of us can do that at all times. We work with our authors to figure out the best place for their book. So we work together developing submission lists, talking about what their dream ideas might be, where they think their book should belong, and, you know, share what we think in sort of our space as well. I don't know, I like to think it's a team effort in that space there. And then, yeah, sure, we sell the book, but then also we are in charge of handling sub-rights most of the time. That includes foreign rights, working with co-agents to get our clients sold into, you know, ideally many, many languages. We help with the audiobook. We help with the audiobook. We help, oh, there we go. We help with film and TV. Yeah, hi.
And then sometimes they just get up and leave.
It's so true. No, this is, and I love Eric.
We chase around our adorable children.
Yes, I know. Well, I mean, you know, welcome to pandemic life.
This is wonderful. No, this is like,
we handle the relationship with the author and the publisher. You know, we are there to you know, be a mediary if things are going poorly. You know, we keep an eye on things to make sure they're going right. In the event the author doesn't know if they're going right or not, you know,
right.
We are there as experts in how the publishing industry works. So if the marketing plan doesn't look good, or the librarian sales plan doesn't look good, we are there to have those discussions with the publisher and be the expert that the author needs.
Cool.
To me, it's always going well. I've never had any doubts.
just to kind of bottle that up into a little thing.
Filled with confidence.
Yeah. Well, let's shift to the two of you and like the beginning, the budding beginning of a relationship. So Adam, you know, you had your book, your manuscript was written, and you did what writers have to do, which is you did your research on literary agents and you began to submit. So I would have to ask first, what was it about Eric that drew you to him, that made you say, I need to submit to this guy?
Well,
And an answer could very well be, I just needed to submit. But
what I would say, if I took you through it sequentially, so actually, so I've told this story many times before, but Eric actually did reject me and this book that he would later sell.
Shame.
And I just didn't take no for an answer. So you should, that's the lesson you should take from this. No,
we will come back to that point.
Yes, we will. So what I did was basically the process of getting Surrender Your Sons from first idea to the shelf, to not even to the shelf, like that took 7 years. From inception of idea to having Eric give me the offer call was 4 years exactly. And that was, I was brand new. I got my background is in screenwriting and film. I was in LA, and I had no idea how publishing really worked. I was kind of stumbling around through Twitter or through manuscript wish list, through it was a lot of trial and error. So this book like really was staggering out there, going to everybody. So it probably did not need to be as rejected as it was. I probably pushed out a very early version that I just, because I was like, well, I'm done writing it, so let's just go. But like that was about 2014, but really the book as it was like adult at one point. So really when it became close-ish to the thing was 2016. So really it was like 2 years of just madcappery. And then in 2016, I had been on Twitter for a few years. I had really been in the kind of community, like being fans of people, kind of following folks, and in a nice way, not in a stalkerish way. And then I think, and then Eric and his wife Nina were people who I enjoyed speaking to just casually about anything. I don't even know if we discussed books much. I think it was just, they were just people I enjoyed. And so most of 2016 was that. And then in 2016, I got into Pitch Wars, and I thought that was going to be my ship coming in, and it was not yet. But it was during that period before Pitch Wars that I had submitted to Eric, and it was nowhere near ready yet. So it was one of those things where, I mean, it was a pass from him, nice pass, and then I think that was in July, and then maybe a few months have gone by, and I was really in the thick of it with Pitch Wars, revising it, getting it ready, and then out of the blue, Eric emailed me personally to just say, hey, still thinking of you in this book, and I don't even know if it was this book, but just thinking of you. Please make sure you send me whatever is next. And it was such a match in a hurricane. It was a very, very important email. I will never be able to describe to Eric how important that was, because it really was during a time where like many things in my life, not just this book, were not going the way I had envisioned them. Basically, then I took, Pitch Wars didn't go out. I took 2017 off to just gut renovate the whole book, because I was basically, because Pitch Wars is, for those of you who don't know, Pitch Wars, you have a manuscript, you submit it, and if you are selected, a mentor, who is usually a published author, or some, it doesn't necessarily have to be published, but an author who's a little more seasoned will take you along through the process, give you notes, get it ready, and then a few months later, you go through like Pitch Wars, sort of like a kind of a debutante ball, little unveiling, and then agents come through and they can like stuff and they can request stuff, and so that happened in November 2016, which was a great time for everyone. But so it was a troubled month, but we went through there, and I had gotten a lot of requests, but it didn't end up proving out, and all the feedback came back the same. Please remove the goofy superpowers from this book. If those of you did not read the Surrender Your Sons, the back end of it, it was this very serious issue, but then there was also sort of an X-Men vibe to it. it was very high-minded, but it was ambitious, but it did not work. And it kind of was the hat on a hat that kept it getting rejected. And then so I basically took 2017 off, renovated it, made it contemporary, no powers, just a regular thriller story, and got it ready. Took about a year, and then I was really worried because I knew I was going to submit it, but everybody online, in the book community is very much uniform and like, well, if they reject that book is done with that agent. Make sure you send in the next one, but make sure it's a new thing. And so I had all my writer friends that I was just like, I was like, gosh, I really, like, really, really want to, because Eric's email was still living in my head. And so I was like, gosh, I really, really want to give that to, give this book to Eric, but he's already said no. And that's the rules. I'll be taken to author jail if I send it to him. So and so everybody just was like, you have a comfort level with Eric. He's already personally emailed you, just whatever, just do it. Just don't be weird if he says no. So I just kind of emailed Eric and I said, hey, Shot in the Dark, I'm out querying this book again. I took a year, completely renovated. It's basically kind of a whole new book. The log line is the same. The characters are the same, but like everything else is here. The powers are gone. This is gone. This is gone. Really super want to give this to you, Shot in the Dark, if you want it. And he said, yeah. And then maybe 2 weeks later, he signed me.
Cool. Eric, from your vantage, I'm sure Adam probably covered a lot of the reasons why you might not have taken it to begin with. But ultimately, what was it about the manuscript that you as an agent said, I want to represent this?
Oh goodness. Well, once the powers were gone, it was so easy to get super grounded, in the world that Adam was writing. And that's what really does it for me with any book, whether it's contemporary or it's a big epic fantasy or sci-fi. It's that grounded moment where you get connected to the characters, you get connected to the world, and you feel like you can be there, and like Adam is just so good at writing that like atmospheric, here's a really dark place, I'm gonna take you there, but also I'm gonna make you feel comfortable because here are some jokes, and like he has this really unique style that, while it's absolutely magnificent, it also made the book very challenging. And I know Adam will talk about this more. Like we got lots of editors when we got to that process that were like, this is too dark to be this funny, or this is too funny to be this dark. And I was just like, all right, you don't get it, fine. We're gonna keep going.
Your faith was like unbreakable in this book. Like it was about another year of sub doing that, and your faith in that was still. Please never tell me if that was all for show for my benefit, but but it worked on me for real. So yeah, it was good.
And Adam actually knew kind of that the call was coming before I emailed him, because like my wife had tweeted like, here's a picture of Eric Smith being excited about Adam Sass, and like added him. I was like, oh, I haven't called him yet.
It was so, but because it was enough to be like, maybe if Nina had done that to like someone who was not so lived on Twitter, like I read into every little moment, like that was one of those things where she didn't like outright say like, oh, the call's coming, prepare yourself. It was just like, hey, this agent who currently has your book for the last 2 weeks is very excited about you. I'd be like connecting the dots very rapidly in the car as I got it. Yeah, it was great.
Well, how long? Okay, so since that came up, how long was the gap then? Did you feel like you needed to go ahead and call him right away, or was there still a couple days? And if there was still a couple days, Adam, how did you sleep?
I didn't know. It was like I was like, because it was, yeah. I think very quickly I was like, oh my god. I think I had sent it to a few friends who kind of had like I sent it to Caleb Rarig and Phil Stamper, like who apparently had known this was kind of coming, because I think you had kind of like sneakily messaged them and been like, "Ooh, this is good. Like I'm gonna, this is happening." And so I'm in a group chat with them, and then it was kind of one of those things where like communication was happening very rapidly amongst many people. So probably it only took an hour, and then I think we did arrange a call really quickly. But yeah, it was right away. But then Eric, I think you can explain, there is like a traditional, respectful, like sort of wait period where everybody else who has the book like gets their chance.
Yeah, most
Right.
agents will tell an author, do your follow-up, talk to whoever else has it. That's publishing is too small. You don't want to burn any bridges. So, authors will generally follow up with every other agent who has it to say, hey, I have an offer. Can you let me know in, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is.
I feel like I gave people like till sundown. Like I feel like I gave like people like a very, I was like, just tell me quickly. But yeah, it was a few weeks.
Okay. Obviously, this is a somewhat unusual road that you all took because of just specifics here. But Eric, I mean, what is there a normal time frame for you from the time you get a submission to the time you actually take on a client?
Oh boy. It depends, like it depends on what life is like at any given moment, like how busy am I at home, how many clients do I have that need my attention first. I have a couple manuscripts in my queue that have been there for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months because I have clients that I have to read first, but I definitely have projects where like I'll read the book in a weekend and I'll call them the next day, like those stories happen. So
Yeah.
it's it varies so greatly, and I think
It's
that's the case for a lot of agents.
just a timing thing then.
Yeah, I think the important takeaway from an author's point of view, like if you're querying an agent and they don't get back to you for like 6 months, or if they read it right away, I really wouldn't read into it good or bad either way. Like it really is about, it really is details that are like fully out of your control. Because
Yeah.
another time is like in this situation where Eric offered, I had about 10 other, a handful of other people who still had it, and I had to give them ample enough time. And so usually a lot of agents, sometimes they'll have to reorganize their reading list because, okay, this author has an offer and I need to at least give it a fair shot to see if I can make that work. So, your reading queue kind of like just jumps all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll jump into the signed author. You are now signed with an agent, and in this case, like with any let's talk about eager writers. Let's go there. Adam, you are an eager writer. There's little doubt about that. You are all over the place, and you do it very well. And I mean that you kind of your own master class on how to promote yourself and everything like that.
Yes.
You strike me as the kind of person that is ready to jump in feet first the moment you get signed. And what was that like? Because I know, Eric, you're up against other clients, you're up against timing, you're up against the process. So was there any point in time where you had to just kind of say, Adam, you just cool your jets, man?
I mean, I feel like that's constantly a push-pull if you have like a very eager writer. I think I've got really hyper eagerness, but also I think fundamentally I'm very aware and respectful of like, oh, Eric has other clients, or Eric hasn't taken a vacation in a really long time. Maybe he should do that, or anything. Yeah, and Eric is very communicative too. Like, so he'll say like, hey, this thing is sort of generally happening in my life right now. Maybe expect things to slow down a touch, but if something is an emergency, let me know. Like, I think that's kind of been the cornerstone, I think, of our healthy working relationship. Is if I like case in point, Eric just came back from vacation, and Monday, like the Monday he was back, he kind of communicated. He's like, "Hey, Monday I'll be back." I had like the biggest high maintenance email I've ever written, where it was like, here's a bulleted list across 3 different books and topics and this and that. But at the beginning, I just said, I understand you're back from vacation. You have like literally thousands of emails. I just need, for my own clarity, to get this out. You bookmark this and return it in your own good time. So I think that's maybe kind of because you never know. Because this thing, I don't want to assume Eric is too busy, because he might not be busy or something. So I think just including a little sentiment of like, hey, feel free to return this in your own good time. That sort of thing helps a lot.
Yeah, good communication is just so important with the author agent relationship. Like that's, I mean, such a huge part of it, right? Like as long as you're on the same level and you are respectful of each other, like the partnership works.
Well, I've recently been sort of peppered with the "Would you rather" game question, and so I'm gonna pose that to you, Eric. Would you rather have an author that is overeager and perhaps a little high maintenance, or one that needs to be pushed?
Ooh. Probably overeager. Yeah. Because like when it comes to publishing and when it comes to books, like you have to want it, right? And you have to want to be on a team with your agent, with your publisher, with everybody. And yeah, if an author needs like to be pushed too much and they don't want it, like I don't know if it would work,
Yeah.
like I would much rather have the overeager person than I have to just like reel back a little bit, and it's something all agents do. We manage expectations, it's an important part of the job. Yeah, that's I think that's what I want.
Yeah.
But it seems the two of you have a very good working relationship, and I know in conversations we've had that we were talking about every relationship requires some level of compromise, that you really haven't had any major issues that have come up, but in general, have there been any moments where you had to give or take, either one of you, in working through this process?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, not that I'm aware of. No, I think if anything, as Eric said, I think I think I understand Eric very well, and I understand like the times and environments in which he's working best with me, and kind of those sorts of things. So I try to kind of be like, ooh, the weather is right to push. Oh, the weather is right to back off. Like, because I'm like left to my own devices, I will just keep going. But Eric's right. I mean, like it requires a ton of energy to do this job. A lot of self-starting. I know that's like on everyone's resume right now, whether they mean it or not, but like it's a lot of kind of knowing what's, because that's the thing, is like even the most like superstar rich client like can't like expect to have the agent be like, oh yes, like I'm here to, here we go, good morning, here's your schedule of things we need to do today. Like, especially because Eric is also an author, he's also a father of a very young child, a human being in this world no one likes right now. Like there's things to consider, and so I kind of just I think I get frustrated when I hear authors complain about their agents, like they need to get in there and do da. I was like, well, did you tell them this is what you needed, or did you just like sit there and like hope they psychically knew that this is what you needed? And and a lot of times it's that, I think a lot of times, and authors can be very sweet, sensitive souls who are not comfortable being pushy or that sort of thing, and advocating for themselves is more of a challenge than it is for a monster like myself. So there's different things. So I think if you're someone who's maybe like a little more tentative, that is definitely a muscle that like work that out as much as you can, if you can, and kind of keep your expectations in check. But yeah, if it's really important to you that I don't know, I don't know of many agents who would really do like all of the energy and then you just write the book. There is a little bit of I kind of call this I don't know, like your business partners. Like you're selling a product together, you're entering into a business, and then when you get published, your editor kind of becomes another business partner. Like you're all sort of like growing this business kind of thing together. It's less of a like the agent is doing something for you. Like it's a
Again, it seems you guys have a great level of communication, which is, if we were to give advice to writers, that seems to be the one thing: communicate your needs, communicate what you're looking for. But just in terms of your relationship, how often are you communicating? And does that vary depending on when the book was in submission with publishers versus now, where you already have a book out and you're working on second and thirds?
Yeah,
How often are you communicating?
Yeah, it definitely varies. Like when you're on submission, for all authors, I feel like the communication there is really up to them. Like some authors want to hear about every single pass and they want to know everything that's happened as it happens, and some don't want to hear from you until the book sells. It's up to the author with what they want there. I feel like Adam and I, we were checking in probably. I feel like it was like monthly, maybe.
We do monthly. I think we do monthly regardless. I think
Yeah.
it just, even if it's like, sometimes, during the winter, it was like, nothing to report. It was just like, same old. Yeah, I think it definitely varies. It's sometimes it's going to be really heating up. And yeah, I think on the Surrender Your Sons submission, it was my first time. So I was really curious and I really wanted to get in there and feel it all. And then we've got some stuff coming up where depending on what I know about submission now and the state of mind I'm in, I might just be like, hey, I have a whole bunch of books to write. I don't know if I can handle like the news coming in so fiercely. Maybe that might be a different pace. I think, yeah, like Eric said, it's just really pick your own pace. And you can obviously change it all the time. If you're like, yeah, give it to me, give me all the passes, and like you get like one and it's just like shredding. You're just like, wait, hold on. Actually, no passes. Don't tell me anything. Yeah.
And I do actually want to talk about like editing and revisions and things like that. But I also want to get to a couple of questions that we have. And the first one is, and I assume this is probably for you, Eric. It doesn't specify, but what is your advice on when to ask for an update after sending your work off to an agent, or if that's even recommended?
Oh, it's totally recommended. I would look at what the agency's submission guidelines say. It might say something like, we'll get back to you in 6 to 8 weeks. If we requested your manuscript, we'll get back to you in 2 to 3 months. It'll say something there. If it's been a little bit longer, or even if it's been exactly what that submission date is, follow up, send a nudge. It's totally okay to do that. I feel like a good percentage of an agent's job is doing those nudges to editors and being like, hey, did you read this book yet? Hey, I have an offer on this book. Did you read it yet? And just like being a total pest. So like, we get it. We're not going to be mad, and you're not going to go to the book jail that Adam mentioned.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it all does. Everything comes down to just be cool. Yeah. Just, if it's bad news, take it cool. Take all your, if you got some uncool thoughts, take it to your spouse, your friends, or whatever. Yeah, like. But yeah, I think just like really keep it profesh there.
Yeah. It's a word that we hear a lot at our conferences and programs is keep it professional. Mm-hmm. Another question here, again, Eric, this one's specifically for you. When you receive this, do you expect all books that you accept will need some level of revision? And is it generally a lot or a little? And then following up to that, how do you help the authors through that process? And then we'll feed from that into how you two work together.
Yeah. I mean, I do expect the books aren't going to be perfect when they come in. Like there's probably going to be a couple things we need to polish. Maybe there's a chapter that doesn't end as strong, or one character whose arc needs to be fixed up a little bit. Like that's normal. And yeah, totally. I'll give them plenty of notes. We'll go back and forth. We'll talk about it. But that tends to be it. It's a little bit of a revision. I know some agents who do like giant, like in-depth developmental edit revisions. Some can do that. I can't, due to, I don't know, you hear my child squealing right now? That's why I can't do that. So yeah, I edit to sell. That's the thing that I mentioned earlier, where I it has to be just enough edits where I can just polish it up and then off it can go, right? It can't be, I can't do months of back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's one of those things where I kind of take it to be, and I say this as someone who was very correctly rejected when I was. Any rejection that happens from now on is false, just bad. But the other ones were correct. But no, I think that's something where it's like you definitely need to be ready to get in the game, I think. And I think I take it as, if your book needs that much revisions right away, it's a little where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of like refining, kind of like getting your instincts correct that you need to do. And for me, rejection was the way to be alerted that my instincts were not where they needed to be. Because as soon as you sell your first book, you're into the second one, and you have, with each book you once you, like right now I'm drafting my second book, 99 Boyfriends of Micah Summers, where I had 7 years to write Surrender Your Sons. I have 3 months to write this one. So it's like you're in the show. So it kind of, once you get going and sell a book, you kind of got to keep doing that faster and faster, better and better. And that's just the show. So
yeah. Well, again, feeding off of revisions. So when Surrender Your Sons, when Eric, you took on Adam as a client, and you had your preliminary talk and immediately got into revisions, how much work was there to do? And then Adam, I want you to follow up that with, how did that feel once you finally had the high of, I've got the agent, and then, oh wait, but here's all this work I need to do?
Interesting question, because I don't remember. I don't remember the edits that we did on the book. I feel like they weren't intense.
We were, you signed me. I remember this all like the back of my hand. It's you gave me the offer call like March 31st. April 9th, you signed me. April 12th, you gave me the edit letter, and April 15th, we were on sub. Like, it was very quickly.
No,
I think it was one of those things where all of those edits came before I queried from his previous rejection. So it was, I think, and other folks, like, it was one of those things where I think the more you refine as an author, I would say, please just refine it yourself. It's such a better experience if you do it that way. There are some agents who, yeah, will take you on to be very editorial, but like, you were doing yourself the biggest favor. You will have the smoothest ride, most likely, if you do all that revision work yourself up front. Because then it was like, when I got signed, it was like, get signed, some polishes. It was like removing certain lines. It was very much like he said, polish. And then we were off to the races, and then it was another year. So it's like, again, it's like, do all of that work now, because like, when you get on sub, it could be a while. So
and like, I'm looking at like some other clients on my shelf right now to like try to think about like deeper edits that I did, and like it feels like, for the most part, like some of the authors who I did ask for edits that were a little bit bigger, it was always just me wanting to see stuff a little bit more. Like, I'm a big sensory image person when it comes to the writing that I like to write myself and that I like to work on. So it's always lots of like, show me this, show me this, show me this, show me this, which is, I hope, a little bit helpful when it comes to the kind of sci-fi and fantasy stuff that I work on. I do work with this one author, Mike Chen, and he's talked about this quite a bit, but we worked on this book together, beginning at the end, and like, you'll see him talk about it on Twitter, so I'm not like revealing dark secrets or anything, but like, when we were trying to sell his first book and having a hard time, he sent me this one, and I read it, and I made him rewrite the whole book because we had that kind of time, and like, I made him take it from like a 2 POV book to like 4, and I made him read Station 11, and I told him to make it like that book, and then it was his option book, and we sold it really fast, so like, sometimes that stuff can happen where there's lots of room to edit, and polish, but usually that's when that's my client already, you know, and we're
Gotcha.
already invested in things.
Yeah, I think that was something where I think that's kind of why Eric and I kind of were a good match right away, because you know, whatever my weaknesses are as a writer, my strengths definitely are painting a picture.
Yeah.
And sort of like almost like, I mean, I really, that's something where it's like the very first, because I don't get interested enough to write it unless it's like VR level, drop you in and you're there kind of experience. And so like in Surrender Your Sons, it was the jungle, and it was like you had to feel the heat, you had to feel the wetness of the air, you had to be your heart racing thinking someone was after you, like there was, I mean, that's something where like I kind of start with that. So I think that's probably why you know, it's really more like fine tuning other stuff over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like wild. Like I'm I'm the kind of person that like I read a book, like any novel or whatever, and I forget everything like right away. It's gone. Like I loved it, but it's gone. But like when I think about like books by like someone like Adam or a lot of the other authors I work with, like I think about Surrender Your Sons, and like right away I can think about like that opening with the boat and then being dragged along the beach, and I can feel that cave scene, and you know the he's talking about the jungle and everything. I remember the moments where our characters climbing up the big tower and the heights and everything. Like I carry all those images, you know, and like that's a sign of a brilliant book, I think,
Yeah.
when you can hold on to them.
Curious, and I know it's going to vary from writer to writer, but with this particular one, if you were to just guess, how many times did you read through this book from the time you first were reading it on submission to the time it was finally out of your hands?
Maybe
We did 2 R&Rs on sub, so where it went through.
like 4 or 5 times, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I read it when he sent it to me, and then when I signed him, I read it again to find things to polish up. Oh boy! And then the book came out, and I read it then. You know. So.
Yeah, and and R&Rs are like when you're on sub, it's a revise and resend. So normally that's when a public or an editor really likes what you've got going on, but they'll need to see you fix a few certain things before they reconsider it.
Yeah. And
both our R&Rs were passes in the end, but it did continue to push the book forward.
Yeah.
Well, your relationship started at what could be an inopportune time, as this program, is here because of the pandemic. Adam, I know I've talked to you before about having a book come out during a pandemic and how it sort of dulled it a little bit for you because it's your debut book and you didn't get to do the big tour in the bookstores and everything like that. But I'm curious, from an industry standpoint, how the pandemic affected like you, Eric, managing this, and then Adam, you can talk a little bit more about being an author in this case.
Yeah, I mean, like on my side of things, when it came to managing clients during the pandemic, it was a lot of like, I know these things are disappointing, but let's talk about the bright side of everything. And the bright side of publishing is that books have a long life, you know, like it might not hit like lightning right out of the gate the way it might if we weren't in a pandemic and you were doing book tours and big events and everything like that. But librarians remember, you know, they're going to remember that book. They're going to remember all those starred reviews, and books continue well past all the buzz that happens in person and on social media, you know? So it was lots of trying to like, you know, refocus my clients to think about that stuff and to think about the future and the next books. And, you know, and with Adam, the future is very bright with 99 Boyfriends coming.
Which that was something. That was definitely something that kind of came to me in the middle of all of this. And I was not quite sure because it's a romantic comedy, and I was like, I can't really go from this very troubled story to you know, this really candy cane story. And I don't know, Eric. Eric's just again sort of this divining rod, sort of knew this was the path, and then that ended up being the way. And and Eric, what you said before about like books having a long life, we're seeing that happen, right? If anybody's following what's going on with They Both Die at the End,
Oh yeah.
it's having a it's having a very explosive renaissance. So in paperback, so it's things happen. Like people are rediscovering Proxy by Alex London, because like that topic that he wrote about, this sort of debt, is sort of it's people are talking about it now. Like it's one of these things where it's for whatever reason, a lot of this is just out of your hands.
And that's interesting you mentioned that, Adam, because like that's another thing you talk to authors about in these weird times, is to, and also just in general when it comes to publishing and being a writer, is to focus on the things you can control sometimes, and that applies to my life and my agenting place as well, telling my authors like, hey, we're going to focus on something else right now. I'm going to go pitch your book a bunch to Hollywood and TV people, because that's something that's still going on. We're going to go aggressively with your audiobook rights. Like there are other things to keep pushing. It's it doesn't stop when the book comes out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it really is, saving your energy. We keep talking about energy. Save that for when it's out. Because I mean, for you, if you're on social media, there seems to be a lot of pizzazz around your launch, and everyone buzzing about it, and authors who are instant New York Times bestsellers. A lot of folks are not, and then yeah, I mean, it can kind of create this reality that's maybe it's not correct, and that can be one of the hardest things for authors to really struggle with, is just sort of like all the many different ways. So Caleb Rarigan, another author, a mutual friend of ours, we always talk about that movie. It's a documentary. It's called like 20 Feet from Stardom, with these like about like the backup singers, like the greatest backup singers in history, and it seems to be like, well, if you're not this like absolute like number one wherever, like people who are backup singers, like they're fine, like they're very rich, where like there's like many ways to there are many ways to have a career in this business, and it looks like a million different things. It probably is. It's not likely going to look like this like superstar thing, but I think the important thing is to just kind of redirect your thoughts to like, there's absolutely a way to subsist with this as a career and be very, very, very satisfied.
We've got a couple questions here, so let's just go ahead and roll with those. And I encourage you guys to go ahead and get your questions in. We still got some time, and it's a great opportunity to, whether you just want to pick Eric's brain or whether you've got questions for them both, is a great opportunity to get them in. Eric, so this one's for you. How do you know as a writer, or how do you as a writer, well, I guess actually I'll give it to both of you, since this is directed to a writer. How do you as a writer know if a manuscript is on the right track? How many full requests is a good sign? Or after how many rejections should you stop querying a project?
It's so hard. It really is, because it's such a wildly subjective business, and I feel like you'll hear a lot of people say that, where a book could get rejected 100 times and then finally find the one person who actually gets it, and I in a lot of ways I feel like Adam is that kind of story, not just in terms of agents, but in terms of me pitching the book. Like we went after everyone with this book.
Everyone.
And, that author I mentioned earlier, Mike Chen, like I pitched his book. It took me 2 years to sell that particular book. But you gotta harness that inner Taurus energy and just be stubborn as hell and just keep going. I don't want to tell you to exhaust every option, because that's not the answer. But just try to go after all the agents that feel like they would be the best fit for you. And once that list is done, then maybe it's time to give that book a break, and see what's next. There is the temptation to go scorched earth and go after everyone, but it's better to have the agent that's a good fit for you than just someone that you think might be able to sell your book. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's keep going is my
Yeah. I mean, I probably I don't know, like I don't know what it's like to put a book on the shelf, because like I really was like no to putting this on the shelf, but you do hit that sometimes, and it does happen that way, you know. And I know many people who shelved a book and then they sold another thing, and then their shelved book became their option book. Like, it does live. So I mean, there's many ways a book can live, or it just that was a practice, that was just a whetstone that you used to like keep everything sharp and keep going. But yeah, the thing is, you know, how you know when it's like, you know, and the other thing is like how many subs is a good, how many full requests is a good sign. You just need one. Like, you really did. Like I boast about this number a lot, but it's if you combine the agent and editor rejections on just this book, combine them, it's 110 rejections. This was turned down, and it was turned down by, I mean, I can't even think of anybody we did not go with this to. I mean, it's weird thinking about it now, Eric, but like, were we at the end? I feel like we were at the end a little bit.
The last couple
Right. We were reaching the end. Not that it was like, oh, these are the drags or whatever, because I loved who we were out to at the last round, but it was like, you know, there was some like creative thinking and going out of the box, because I think we did want to go big with it, but then small ended up being the way to go with it, because the big problem for people was not that they didn't love the book. A lot of people loved the book, and they weren't quite sure, as Eric said, they weren't sure how to sell something that was dark, too funny to be dark, but too dark to be funny. They didn't know really how to, you know, maybe thread that needle or convey that to, you know, booksellers in that way. They were just not confident in their sales strategy on that. I was confident in that, which is why I kind of took up a lot of the, you know, one-man bandedness of a lot of the social presence this book had. So,
well, Eric, you threw your link up there to the blog, but let's go ahead and answer the question that Helen had, which was what the best way to find an agent.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, I put a little link in the chat there. That's like my beginner's guide to looking up agents. But there are a couple ways you go about looking up agents and researching who you want to pitch your book to. One is to look at your bookshelf. Look at the authors on your shelf that have had books published in the past 1, 2, 3 years, and Google them, because every author is going to mention who their agent is on their website. So you have a ton of, I'm like pointing at my bookshelf like any of you can see it right now, but you have a ton of resources just right there, you know, ready for you to pluck. Social media is a great place to look up agents, but remember, it is a small sliver of the people who are out there. A lot of big agents don't care about Twitter and they don't use it, which is totally fine, because maybe they don't need it. But it's a good place to get started. Look at hashtags like MSWL, which is manuscript wish list. It's a great way to see what agents are looking for. Let me see. Go on Publishers Weekly and sign up for their various newsletters. You'll get an email, like twice a week telling you about new book deals. Only do it if you can stomach that, because it can kind of feel not great hearing about everyone's book deals every other day and they're not yours.
Yeah.
As an agent, sometimes it bothers me. So, you know, you just, and then if you have a writing group, one recommendation I like to make a lot, and I learned this from Jonathan Mayberry, who's a wonderful, very giving author. You should follow him. He does free events all the time. He's a great guy. He always tells writing groups to just split the cost of a publisher's marketplace subscription for like a month. You know, it's $25 a month, but you know, $25, that's expensive. So split it with your 5 friends in your writing group and just mine the hell out of it and get all the agent contacts out of it. And there you go. You have every agent in the industry right there. Awesome. It's the really, really easy way to look people up.
Yeah.
And I'll echo Shelley had put in the chat that that encouraging people to go read your blog, because she says it's a gold mine of resources and useful guides, and I agree. You know, you've got some great information there.
I try.
And always good to find those. Always good to find those resources, because you know you don't always have the opportunity like this to ask an agent directly. these kind of questions. So if the information is there, you should certainly mine it out.
Yeah.
There's a question here for Adam, and it is, would you recommend most unrepresented writers, first-time writers, to participate in the pitch wars or pit mad events before ever querying agents, or wait to see how the manuscript does first before going and trying those experiences?
Oh.
I mean, what I did was I threw all the spaghetti at the wall. Like everyone got everything at the same time. Like, so I would maybe like do something a little more in waves. I think if you think you're gonna do pitch wars, or if you think your book kind of maybe needs a keener eye, I would do that before querying agents, because agents are gonna be like, wait, you gave me this book and then you went into pitch wars with it. Which is what I did to Eric, which is I was like, hey, and then like as soon as he turned me down, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do pitch wars. So, just don't do what I did. But yeah, I think Pitmad's good. I mean, again, Pitmad, and like, again, to Eric's point, if you can stomach it, do these Twitter pitch contests, because, and I cannot tell you how many I did, because they're countless. DV Pit, Pitmad, everything. Sometimes I walked away with nothing. It was like going to a carnival game. Like sometimes I walked away with 0. Sometimes I walked away with like a whole bunch of likes, and then it didn't, nothing really came of that. But what did come of that was I got more and more practice at pitching out this story vulnerably, not just to like agents and whatever, but to like all my Twitter followers who do not know what this is, and they were like, you're tweeting a story. I thought you were doing your normal tweets. So I recommend doing Pitmad and these sort of pitch contests, just to sort of get used to braving jumping in, because a lot of it is jump in again. I mean, even now, us putting books out there, because again, it's every part of the submission, the querying, and then the submission process and the pitching process, and this, it is all training you for the big show, because all of these skills you use later on, and you will need, because you're sending your book out when it finally hits the shelves to the populace, who will not be like, give you the nice rejection, who will, maybe tag you and go, here's this beautiful picture of Surrender Your Sons, terrible book, at Adams. Yeah, like they'll, like, it's a free country, they will just tag you and stuff. Sometimes it'll be great. Sometimes it'll be a great glowing review, beautiful pictures, and they'll go 3 stars, wonderful. And you'll be like, wait, but I thought this was perfect. It'll just be you. It's the ultimate sort of vulnerability. So I would say, go do it all, because you need as much practice as possible being vulnerable with your work and taking a very cold eye to it. Because one of the most important things that Eric has been able to teach me is that, like, you really have to divorce the work from you as a person, because when you get a rejection, it's like, well, you're being invalidated, but that's not the case. Most difficult lesson in the world to learn.
Oh yeah, no, super hard.
Yeah.
And when it comes to those pitch events like Pitmad or DV Pit or anything like that, like I love them. And I was plucking books from my shelf. All of these were DV Pit and Pitmad books in my agent life. And this one is a Irish Book Award nominee. So like, it works. It's wonderful if you but again, only if you can stomach it, because it probably doesn't feel great when you do them and you don't get any likes or anything like that. It can be a little hard.
Yeah, just take it to your friend group. Just like, I mean, like, it's all part of the, I don't know, just try making it part of the fun. Like, it's all part of the, you're jumping in there into the pit with your sword, and you're taking your blows, and but you're in there. You've finished a book, you are putting it out there. So few people actually get to that point. So I think just the fact that you're starting to do that is extraordinary. So I would say give yourself that break, and just I mean, just every bad emotion that you're feeling with querying, just start getting used to it like you're getting into a hot bath, because you just don't, you stay in it, because it's all being vulnerable and showing your work to people and facing judgment and getting reviews, and will anybody even notice that you put something out? It's constant.
All right, we're getting close to the end of time here. I have a question here, and Don, while I'm reading this question, I was wondering if you could throw in there, I want to make sure I understand the context, if the writer already has an agent or if the writer does not have an agent, but I'll go ahead and read the question anyway. Her question is there any issue with pitching to a major publishing house editor or assistant editor at conferences specifically? Do agents mind that if unsuccessful? Okay, so no, you don't already have the agent, you're seeking one.
Oh, no, not really. I mean, if the opportunity is there for you to pitch somebody at a major house and they're not going to need you to have an agent, go for it. It's totally fine. Chances are, if they do sign you, which would be fantastic, they're going to tell you to go get an agent, and it'll be fine, because you're going to be the one author who's like, hey, I have an offer for my book from HarperCollins and I need an agent, and someone's going to come scoop you up really quick. Just make sure you have smart conversations with that agent and that they're not in it just to get your money, that they're invested in your career after that book. But a lot of those conferences where you're able to pitch to an editor in person your book, sometimes they're not able to do anything, and they're just going to say like, oh, this sounds really interesting, send it to me when you have an agent. So just be aware of that.
So if they do have an agent and they're at a conference talking to an editor, they should preface to that editor, I have this agent, here it is, this is the person, and that editor would probably want to work through the agent then.
I guess, I don't know, that'd be weird for me.
It would be. I'm just asking.
So like, yeah, if you're in the position where you have an agent and you go to a conference and you bump into an editor and you're just making small talk and you're like, oh, I'm working on this book, maybe you want to check it out, like, that's fine. Yeah, go for it. But like, if you're going to a conference as an author and you're booking pitching sessions and you have an agent and you're talking to editors, that's weird. You don't want to do that.
All right, cool.
So yeah, Eric, I'm very looking forward to being like, Eric, so I sold this book. So can you just draft an email? Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think also another thing to like kind of, this is probably for people who have not quite entered into that agent querying process yet, but I think there's a lot of talk of like gatekeepers, sort of a scary word. And a lot of, folks, I think sometimes, it's fine to not have an agent. It's not like you have to. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you do, I think. But I think I would think of it less as, oh, you have to go through this channel and you have to do it and all that. I see it more of like I wouldn't want to do this without an agent. Like, this is so big. It's like Frodo and the Ring. Like, you just need like a Gandalf, like, to like help you like put everything into context, because you're there doing this one task, but like your brain will lie to you and will start saying like, oh, you need to do this and this and that, and maybe you'll be correct. A lot of times it's your anxiety pulling you in these negative directions that are not helping you or the book. So you do need, and especially someone like Eric, who is a grounding presence, who says, yeah, worry about this, I wouldn't worry about that. Or, hey, here's a series of expectations. Sort of some type of positive force in your life, because this is a very long journey full of doubt, unless you are one of these like machines who's like loves it and doesn't have doubt. If you have ever had any doubts, or if you have any like nervousness about this, like the agent is like is getting like such an invaluable partner in this, because it's not just like needing someone to talk to, even though that's a big piece of it. A lot of it is just advice. It's like going to a CPA to do your taxes. Like, you just like, it's so overwhelming and big. Like, you just it's invaluable. So it's worth it to go through that process first.
And I have one more question, but we're kind of out of time here. And also, Adam just referred to you as Gandalf, so I really don't know that we can go anywhere else with that.
Yay.
I think that's we've reached the peak there. So, but thank you both for your time and for answering questions for everybody. I have dropped plenty of follow links on there for social media, and you can go visit Adam's website at adamsassbooks.com, Eric's website at ericsmithrocks.com, and I think most of your handles are also Eric Smith Rocks, which I'm curious, where did that come from?
I used to be a touring music photographer.
Touring music photographer. That's a career.
Eric Smith Rocks was the music blog, and
Okay.
that's it. Stuck with it.
Carried it over. I like it. I like it.
Almost famous.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, thank you both, and I really appreciate your time. And this was a great conversation. For those of you who have been following the chat, if you haven't had the opportunity to click links or copy anything down, I will have a copy of it. You can email me at zach@broadleafwriters.com, and I'll be glad to supply it to you. This video will be edited and put up on our YouTube channel within a couple days. So you'll have the opportunity to revisit and watch it as much as you want. And I highly encourage you to connect with both Eric and Adam on social media and fire questions at them endlessly, because I'm gathering they're going to answer them. So
if I didn't get to your questions here, I see some come through. My DMs are open. I will get to them in time, but you feel free to send those my way if you have a specific one.
Thank you.
Yep.
And again, Adam's going to be at the 6th Annual Broadleaf Writers Conference in October, so you'll get an opportunity to see him again there. And that's all I have. So thank you all for being here, and have a good night.
Bye.